Level 1, the illusion begins. You are 22. You just got your first real paycheck. It's not massive. But it feels massive. And for the first time in your life, you can buy something you don't need. So you do. A watch. Not expensive. But it looks expensive. That's the point. You wear it to a family dinner and someone notices. Someone says something nice. You feel it in your chest, that warmth, that validation, that quiet electricity of being seen as someone going somewhere. You think this is confidence. It isn't. It's the first hit. And like every first hit, it feels harmless. Because the amount is small. Because you earned it. Because you deserve it, right? You worked for this. What nobody tells you is that the feeling fades faster than the bill arrives. So you do it again. A nicer restaurant. A better jacket. Shoes that cost more than a week of groceries. Each one justified. Each one earned. Each one logical in the moment. This is level 1. Everything still feels exciting. You're not in debt yet. You're not broken yet. You're just starting to build an identity on borrowed signals. The trap doesn't look like a trap. It looks like style. Level 2, the persona takes shape. 6 months in, something subtle shifts. It's not just about the things anymore. It's about what the things say about you. You start curating. The Instagram posts. The stories. The carefully angled photos where the watch is visible, the restaurant looks upscale, the life looks polished. You're not lying, exactly. You're just editing. This is where the fake rich persona is born. Not with a decision. Not with a plan. With a filter. A caption. A lifestyle frame that slowly becomes more real than reality. You start spending time with people who do the same thing. Guys who lease cars they can't own. Women who buy designer bags on payment plans. A whole ecosystem of people performing wealth for each other in a room where nobody actually has it. It feels like a tribe. It is a tribe. Just not the one you think. Here's what nobody says out loud in that room: everyone is watching everyone. Everyone is comparing. And the moment you show up in something less impressive than last time, you feel it. The slight shift in energy. The absence of the reaction you expected. So you level up again. Not because you want to. Because the audience demands it. This is where the credit card stops being a convenience and becomes a costume budget. You tell yourself it's an investment in your brand. In your network. In the version of you that belongs in higher rooms. That logic will cost you years. Level 3, the credit card lifestyle. Let's talk numbers. Not your income. Your minimum payments. Because at level 3, the math has quietly turned against you, and you either haven't noticed, or you've decided not to look. The card is somewhere between $3,000 and $8,000. You make the minimum. Sometimes a little more. You tell yourself you'll clear it when the next big thing happens. The raise. The bonus. The client. The deal. The next big thing keeps not being enough. Because the lifestyle has grown faster than the income. That's the geometry of this trap. Expenses scale up instantly. Income scales up slowly. The gap is where the fake rich life lives. And here's the psychological mechanics that nobody explains. The brain stops registering spending when it's abstract. Cash feels real. Swiping doesn't. A credit card purchase triggers almost zero emotional pain response compared to handing over physical money. Science confirms this. Which means every time you swipe, you are bypassing your own internal alarm system. They built it that way. The rewards points. The cashback. The sleek metal card with your name on it that feels premium in your hand. It's not a payment tool. It's a psychological override device designed by people far smarter than the spending impulse they're exploiting. You are not weak. You are targeted. But that doesn't make the debt smaller. At level 3, you still look fine from the outside. The clothes are right. The photos are good. The vibe is intact. But there's a new feeling starting. Something low and constant. A hum of anxiety you can't quite name. You attribute it to work stress. To ambition. To the hunger of someone building something. It isn't that. It's the sound of a number growing in the dark. If you've made it this far, comment what level you recognize yourself in. Because level 5 is where it gets harder to look away. Level 4, the upgrade trap. Here's the moment the game changes gear. You get a real raise. Or a better job. Or a business deal that finally comes through. Real money enters the picture for the first time. And for exactly 3 days, you feel relief. Then lifestyle inflation hits you like a current you didn't see coming. Suddenly the apartment you have feels wrong for the person you're becoming. The car feels dated. The wardrobe feels like the old you. The restaurants you used to find impressive feel like they belong to a previous chapter. This isn't vanity. This is a cognitive trap with a name, hedonic adaptation. Your brain resets its baseline to match your new normal, and then immediately starts measuring against the next level up. Satisfaction has a half-life of roughly 72 hours. Then the wanting starts again. So the raise gets absorbed. Completely. Sometimes before it even fully arrives. New apartment. Higher rent. The difference between what you earned before and what you earn now disappears into the upgraded version of the same feeling you were buying at level 1. And here's the specific danger at level 4, the debt doesn't go away, it gets companionship. Now there's the credit card balance and the higher rent and the car payment on something you couldn't afford without financing and the dinners and the trips because you've earned it, haven't you? You've worked hard, you deserve to live like this. The fake rich person at level 4 is harder to spot than at level 1. Because now the income is real. The things are better. The life looks more legitimate. But the structure underneath? Still sand. More expensive sand, arranged more convincingly, but one missed month away from exposure. The people around you don't know this. They see the upgrade. They see the success signal. Some of them feel a quiet envy you can almost taste at dinner. You like that feeling. That feeling is the most dangerous thing in this story. Level 5, the performance becomes mandatory. At level 5, you can no longer afford to look less successful than you currently appear. Read that sentence again. This is the invisible cage. You built it yourself, one post, one purchase, one impression at a time, and now the walls are load-bearing. Your social circle expects a certain version of you. Your clients or colleagues have formed an image. Your family brags about you in rooms you're not in. The persona has developed its own momentum, its own obligations, its own maintenance costs. You can't downgrade without a story. You can't show up to the dinner in last year's jacket without someone noticing. You can't suggest the cheaper restaurant without the energy shifting. You can't admit the numbers don't quite work without the whole architecture of who you've told people you are beginning to crack. So you maintain. Every month, you maintain. The performance is no longer optional. It's a job. An unpaid, exhausting second job that runs parallel to your real one. And here's the emotional weight nobody talks about at this level. Loneliness. Not the loneliness of being alone. The loneliness of being surrounded by people who know your performance, not your reality. People who would react differently, you don't know how, exactly, but differently, if they knew the actual numbers. You laugh at the right moments. You pick up rounds you can't afford. You book the holiday because not booking it would require an explanation you're not ready to give. You win every room you walk into. And you drive home in silence wondering how long you can sustain this. This is where success stops feeling like success. Everything before this level was the easy part. Level 6, the first real crack. It starts small. A bill you can't fully cover. A month where the math genuinely doesn't work. You move money around, a skill you've quietly developed without meaning to. You delay one payment to make another. You use one card to buy breathing room on a second. This is called a float. And once you start floating, you are now managing a financial house of cards with your bare hands. The stress is different now. It used to be background noise. Now it wakes you up. 3 a.m. and your brain is running spreadsheets you've never written down because writing them down would make them real. The rough number lives in your head like a tenant you can't evict. You know approximately what you owe. You don't want to know exactly. This is willful financial blindness. And it is extraordinarily common among the fake rich. Because looking at the real number means confronting the gap between who you are and who you've told the world you are. And that gap, once measured, is hard to unmeasure. Meanwhile, the exterior holds. Posts still go up. Plans still get made. The group chat still lights up when you suggest the weekend trip. You're still the one who makes it happen, who moves in that energy of effortless abundance. But there are nights, quiet ones, after everyone's gone home, where you feel something close to grief. Not for money. For time. The years you've been here. The choices that locked you into a version of yourself that now requires constant expensive performance. The paths you didn't take because they didn't match the image. Who would you have been if the first hit hadn't felt so good? You don't stay with that question long. There are payments due. Level 7, scaling the illusion. Some people at level 6 stop. They get scared, get honest, get practical. They quietly shrink the lifestyle. They work the debt down. They escape. You don't stop. You scale. This is the fork in the road, and it's where the story gets darker. Because at level 7, the fake rich person doesn't retreat, they accelerate. The logic goes like this: I've already spent this much on the image. The image is working. It's opening doors. If I go bigger, the returns might actually justify the cost. This is the most seductive lie in this entire story. And it contains just enough truth to be lethal. Because the image does open doors sometimes. The expensive suit does get you into certain rooms. The address does affect how some people treat you. The appearance of wealth genuinely influences perception in ways that can create real opportunities. But here's what gets lost in that logic. The cost of maintaining the appearance has now exceeded any opportunity it's ever created. You're running a marketing campaign for a business that doesn't exist. And at level 7, the methods shift. It's not just credit cards now. It's personal loans taken for investments that quietly go into the lifestyle. It's borrowing from people who trust you, framed as temporary, strategic, almost charitable to them because you'll obviously pay it back with interest when things land. Things don't land. Things require more investment. The vocabulary shifts too. You stop saying you're spending. You start saying you're building. You're investing in your network. You're playing the long game. You're positioning. These are real concepts used by real successful people. But you're using the language of strategy to describe the behavior of survival. And you know it. That's the specific horror of level 7, the self-awareness hasn't gone anywhere. It's just been re-narrated. Level 8, the luxury bankruptcy architecture. Let's talk about what luxury bankruptcy actually looks like. Because it doesn't look like what you imagine. It doesn't look like a single catastrophic moment. It doesn't look like a news headline or a public collapse. For most people inside this story, it looks like a slow architectural failure. Like a building that was always structurally wrong, standing longer than it should have, until the specific combination of weight and weather finally makes it shift. The architecture of luxury bankruptcy has specific floors. Floor 1, consumer debt, cards, buy now pay later accounts, store credit across multiple brands. Floor 2, personal loans, often from non-institutional sources, friends, family, private lenders, people who believed in the version of you that was presented. Floor 3, business debt, because at some point most people at this level have started something, a brand, a venture, a consultancy, something that functions partly as a legitimate enterprise and partly as a vehicle to run lifestyle expenses through with better optics. Floor 4, the reputation, which is not financial debt but functions exactly like it. The social obligations. The image maintenance. The people who've invested emotionally and sometimes financially in your story. When the building falls, all 4 floors come down. And the specific brutality of luxury bankruptcy is this. The higher your visible status, the further the fall appears to everyone watching. The person who was broke and got broker generates sympathy. The person who was seen as wealthy and collapsed generates something more complicated, a mixture of sympathy and judgment and dark satisfaction from people who suspected the whole time. You feel that mixture. From people who said they loved you. That's the part that doesn't fit in any debt repayment plan. Level 9, the reckoning. The calls come in a particular order. First the automated ones. Polite, almost apologetic. Reminders of balances due. Then the real ones. Human voices. Patient, then less patient. Then the formal letters with specific language that makes everything abstract suddenly clinical and concrete. And running parallel to all of that, the social reckoning. The friend who lent you money and needs it back in the conversation you've been delaying for 3 months. The family member who bragged about you and now has questions you can't answer cleanly. The business contact who referred clients based on the version of you that doesn't quite exist. These conversations are worse than the financial ones. Because money can be restructured. Trust takes longer. At level 9, there are 2 distinct types of people inside this story. The first type collapses entirely. The shame becomes total. The gap between performance and reality is so wide that facing it requires a complete psychological breakdown of the constructed identity, and not everyone survives that with their sense of self intact. Some people lose years here. Some lose more than that. The second type does something harder and rarer. They stop. Not gradually. Not strategically. They just stop. They make the calls. They say the true numbers out loud for the first time. They sit with the reaction, the disappointment, the confusion, the occasionally surprising compassion, and they let reality in. This is not a comfortable process. But it is the only door out. Because here's what level 9 quietly reveals. The identity you built was expensive. But it was also exhausting. And on the other side of the reckoning is something you haven't felt since before level 1. Rest. Not resolution. Not success. Not the version of arrival you spent all this money performing. Just rest. The specific piece of not maintaining a fiction anymore. Subscribe here, because what comes after the reckoning is not what you'd expect. Level 10, the final truth. There's a version of this story that ends in recovery. Debt paid slowly, carefully, without fanfare. Lifestyle quietly restructured. Identity rebuilt on something load-bearing this time. Real friendships that survived the reckoning. New money habits that feel almost boring compared to everything that came before. That version exists. It is real. People live it. But there's something that version doesn't erase. The years. That's what the fake rich life ultimately costs. Not the money. Money can be rebuilt, remade, earned back slowly. What it costs is the compounding time you spent maintaining an image instead of building a foundation. The relationships that burned in the gap between your performance and your reality. The decisions you didn't make because they didn't fit the character you were playing. The version of you that might have existed, quieter, less impressive to strangers, probably happier, that version doesn't get reclaimed. That version was traded for the watch, the jacket, the posts, the validation, the hit of being seen. And here's the final uncomfortable question that level 10 leaves you with. Did anyone ever actually see you? Or did they see the performance? Because the people who left when the money image cracked, they didn't lose you. They lost the character. They were never really there for the person underneath. And the people who stayed, through the reckoning, through the embarrassment, through the boring slow rebuilding, those are the relationships that the fake rich life almost cost you. Almost. There's a specific kind of gratitude that only people who've been through this understand. Not gratitude for the experience. Not grateful for the lesson optimism. Just a raw, quiet recognition of what matters and what was always costume. Most people only find that after paying full price for the illusion. The final truth of the fake rich life is not about money. It's about attention. The whole architecture, the debt, the performance, the maintenance, the collapse, was constructed to answer a single question that credit cards can't actually answer. Am I enough? The machine never answers it. The machine only sells you another opportunity to ask. And that is the oldest, most expensive loop in human psychology. Somewhere right now. A 22-year-old just got their first real paycheck. They're looking at something they don't need. Something that will make them look like the person they want to be seen as. They think it's just one purchase. They don't know about the levels yet. They don't know what the machine costs. They just know how good the first hit feels. And the machine is waiting.